Welcome to Redfield Productions. My name is Jonathan Redfield, and I am joined here with Caleb Derosier. Caleb, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks, Jonathan.
Awesome. This is kind of round 2, part 2, whatever we decide to call it, of a little podcasting action. Redfield designed podcasts and other things. So anyway, we had an awesome conversation 6 days ago.
Yeah.
It was 6 days ago, wasn't
it was,
it?
man. We're doing great on this.
I know. This is good for me. I'm actually planning things and organizing my life a little bit. Sounds like you are as well.
Yeah.
So I wanted to come back and talk about some of your story that you told me about. Because I just thought that was absolutely wild. And however you want to get into that, I will ask questions, even if I sort of already did last time. But I'm just gonna let you take the wheel right here and tell me what's up.
Yeah, man. Well, I guess everything started in 2012. I had moved out from Colorado Springs to Kansas City, Missouri in January of 2012. I did an internship there with the House of Prayer for 6 months, and the reason why I did that was I had a girlfriend from years back in middle school that I kept loose contact with, told me that she felt like I was supposed to go out there, and I was like, well, yeah, I mean, you're still really cute, like, I want to get out of my parents' house, you know, I mean, that was kind of my first time being out on my own, so I wanted to figure out what I was made of, and so I made the move, and it was good and bad in some ways. And so we didn't actually see too much of each other the first 6 months that I was there. But after that, we had started dating, I think, in July of that same year.
Okay.
And everything was great until about September of that year. We were staying at her parents' house, drinking, doing whatever stuff that we shouldn't have been doing at her parents' house. And
Sure.
So she had a couple of dogs that we were also watching and taking care of, and so it was a Saturday, I remember that, and she had to go into school to take a test on that day, and so she left me alone at the place to kind of clean up and everything, and
you did have the animals that you were taking care of. Is that what?
Correct. Yeah, I did have that, or they were in the house. Yeah, her parents' house. Right. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had cleaned up our mess, and then I was getting ready to leave, and the last thing to do was to make sure that the dogs had gone out to go to the bathroom. Right. And so I came upstairs, and we'll just say dog A and dog B for
posterity's sake.
Posterity's sake. Thank you. Took the words right out of my mouth, man. So dog A was kind of growling at me a little bit, which I thought was a little strange, and so I went to go put the leash on dog A, and the dog bit me in my ankle, and it wasn't anything bad. It was just kind of a little warning nip, and so, but it was strange for this dog to do that to me because we had a good relationship prior.
So sorry if I stop you here. So
that's okay.
Yeah. This dog you've already had a relationship with, which you just said, and all of a sudden, just sort of out of the blue, it's given you this territorial growl, nip in the ankle thing.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
It's pissed about something, and it seems like that something was me,
Right.
So I decided to leave dog A alone for a little bit, and I went to take dog B out. Took dog B out, no problems, did his business, it was cool. Brought dog B back in, and then I can't find dog A. Dog A is just gone. And there's a big old steaming pile of diarrhea right on the white carpet. So I was like, no, this is what I was trying to avoid by taking you out.
No pun intended.
So good. Shitty. Yeah, man, pretty much.
Okay. And this is her parents' house.
And this is her parents' house. Yeah. And so I'm looking all over the place, and I can't find the dog, and pretty soon I hear growling behind one of the couches in the living room. And so I go and I check it out. Sure enough, dog A is behind the couch, still pissed off about something and growling at me and not coming when I asked it to come. And so then
Right.
I reached to get it by the collar again to put the leash on so that we could go back outside and see if it had anything more to do.
Right.
And that time it bit my hand, and it bit down hard enough that it like drew blood, right?
Right.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I used to have little scars, but they've kind of scarred over.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so then I was just mad. You know, it was like I was trying to do a good thing, tried to take the dog out, bit me once, then it pooped on the carpet, and then it bit me a second time.
Yeah.
So my patience was running pretty thin.
I feel you.
And so I kicked the dog, and I kicked it a few times. I mean, I wasn't like counting, so I can't say it was like, I kicked it 37 times, or I kicked it 3 times. You know,
Right.
like,
But I mean, you were upset, and I understand that because I mean, I've gotten upset at the dogs that live in my house currently. I haven't done anything like, I mean, I've like kicked them, with like my knee, like trying to get them, like to get them away from me because they're being some certain type of way, like you're saying. So I guess just to put this in perspective a little bit, like describe that, like you, like immediately after it bit you.
Oh, well, yeah, it was still latched onto my hand, actually. So the first kick was to, like, get it off. Yeah. Because
Okay.
it's, like, it's hooked onto my hand.
Wow,
And
it's
not like it's a big dog, but, I mean, it was, like, holding on pretty good.
Oh, it actually held on.
But, yeah.
That's significant. So, okay, yep.
Yeah. So I kicked the dog, and once it had, like, released my hand and everything, and, like, I had, like, gotten it by the collar, and it was still trying to bite at me. And I mean, like, this thing... If I didn't know better, I would have said it like had rabies or was like feral or something, because it was just mad.
Right.
And so I'm like walking it up the stairs to put it in her parents' bedroom, which is where the kennels and the dog bowls and all that other stuff were, and that's like normally where they leave the dogs when they're not home. So I took it up there and I closed the door as quick as I could because it was still trying to get at me. And so went downstairs, cleaned up the mess on the carpet, and then I left and was going about my day. A couple hours had passed, and I get a call from my girlfriend, and she's hysterical. She's just, like crying, like there's blood everywhere, there's poop everywhere. And I was like, wait a minute, there's blood? Like what? Like, I mean, I know that it was pooping,
right.
But I mean, like blood is kind of new. I didn't see that before. And so I rushed over there, and I get upstairs, and sure enough, man, there's just like blood and crap everywhere. The dog had like there's like the bed skirts or whatever on the side of a bed underneath everything. Like that was all ripped up and bloody. So like the dog had gotten after that. There's like crap on the walls, and it looked like a massacre,
I mean, there's literally shit on the walls.
Yeah, in the bathtub.
And we're not talking about a toddler. We're talking about a dog.
Right, yeah, dude.
Right.
Like, this thing was, like, projectile, like, shitting everywhere.
So whatever, and I'm going to let you continue, of course, but whatever was going on with this dog sounded like some internal serious issue, obviously.
Right.
Anyhow, go ahead.
Right, yeah. So by that time, my girlfriend had gotten the dog cleaned up, and it wasn't like snarling or anything anymore. In fact, it was like kind of having a hard time moving. It was just like kind of laying on the carpet. And so I'm trying to help her calm down while trying to help her clean up too. And then we're also trying to take care of the dog, and the dog let me pick it up and put it outside because since she had washed it, it was wet. And so we tried to get it out into some sunshine and like dry up a little bit. And shortly after her parents got home, and we had described everything that happened, minus me like kicking the dog because I was like pretty ashamed of it. And I was also worried that I had like done something to the dog, like broken a rib or something like that, you know. And so we had decided that we were going to take the dog to the vet's office. Once we had figured out where the closest vet office was, we drove there. And so her parents and the dog were in one car, and my girlfriend and I were in the other car. And unfortunately, on the way to the vet's office, the dog passed. And so by the time we had gotten to the vet's office, after her parents, they'd already taken the dog into the back. They did a stomach tap. which is not a full autopsy. They just like kind of basically like stick a needle in there and then try to determine like if there's blood in the stomach or not. And sure enough, there's blood in the stomach. And so they said that that's probably where the blood was coming from that was in the room and everything, was that the dog was snarling, biting or whatever, but it was coughing up blood.
Yep.
And so by this time I like feel terrible, now that I've like kicked the dog, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I killed it, and so I asked the vet, I said, hey, like the dog and I like had a fight prior to this stuff going on. And so I asked him, I said, could like the force of my leg like cause the dog to like internally rupture something or whatnot? And they said that it could have been a million different things. The dog could have had a tumor, the dog, which could have exploded. And so I asked if that could have happened. They said no. Like, I mean, if the tumor exploded, it like did it of its own like thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, it could have had cancer. It could have been whatever. And they even said that it could have been that the dog was in pain, and I was like trying to like take the dog out, but it didn't know that, and so it just was like, I'm in pain, like leave me alone, and that's why it acted out.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Oh, almost definitely. I mean, that's a really good point for sure, because I mean, animals are energy frequency beings just like we are, and they respond to energy. You definitely can train them with words, but they hear the energy and motion behind that. I think they're smart enough to, I mean, I don't know. Dogs are super, super fucking smart. I've seen some crazy things, but that just makes so much sense to me, because if the dog's in pain and, you're trying to help it or do whatever you're trying to do, it's just immediate reaction, because I mean, I don't know,
it's to snap and be like,
right.
leave me alone.
I mean, it makes sense anyhow.
And so maybe I don't know. I mean, I've heard stories about like dogs don't like to be around like their owners or like people that they love. Like when they know that their time is coming, like animals, like they just like want solitude, and then they just kind of like go off and like die quietly, right? And so it could have been gearing up to do that, which is maybe why it was hiding behind the couch even, and so just like tons of stuff could have happened. So, so we're coming back from that, and I'm now like, my girlfriend is having to console me because I'm a weepy mess saying that I like killed her dog, and she's like, no, they didn't say that, like none of this. And so fast forward a couple months, I told her parents like kind of the extent, because I had told them that I kicked the dog, but I made it kind of sound like it was one time, not like a few times. And so I just like really had that guilt on my conscience, and I was like, well, I can't like keep going in this relationship knowing that I'm half lying to them. I told them a half truth, right? And so I told them, and they wanted me to go to anger management. My girlfriend at the time had made the mistake of telling her father that my older brother and I used to fight quite a lot growing up, and my older brother is 9 years older than I am, so it wasn't really much of a fight. It was more like abuse.
I'm sorry, it was more like abuse?
Abuse, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. He used to like hold me down and like restrict my airflow and then tell me to like say his name, but it's like, okay, well, I can't like breathe, so how am I going to speak?
Okay, so this wasn't play wrestling you're talking about. This is like he actually... So, okay, let's sidetrack for a second. Why was he like that? I mean, that's just... I mean...
my best guess is somebody
like
probably did that to him.
Right, because that's usually how that goes.
Yeah. I mean, hurt people, right?
Right.
That's how the saying goes.
1,000,000,000%. So your relationship now is
a bit rocky. We're actually kind of like dealing with some of that stuff. We got in an argument like last year. It wasn't like a fist fight by any means, but I mean, like we were yelling at each other, funny enough, it was because he thought that I was being disrespectful towards his stepson, and I was like, dude, like I'm his uncle. Like, come on, man. Like, I love this kid.
Yeah,
like,
man,
why would I?
There's no way. You're one of the nicest people I know.
Right, right. And it was all over like a complete misunderstanding. I had bought something for my nephew and it no longer worked, but I had insurance on it, and so he could go and return it for another one. And so what he had done was he and my younger brother had figured out that he could get 2 things for the price of 1, and so he turned in whatever it was that he had, got something else that was like less money, but then he got something else that was also equivalent to the insurance that I had on there. But since I had bought it on my account, they sent me an email saying that it was like 40 some odd dollars, whatever it was.
Okay.
And at the time I was like living hand to mouth, and so I could not afford to like lose $47, right?
Yeah.
So on the email, it had his name and it had his address, and so I called him because I was like, all right, well, I mean, if you want to know what's going on, go to the source. So I called him and I said, hey, man, did you like take $47 out of this account? And he goes, you better talk to Peter, who's my younger brother. And so I talked to Peter and I was like, hey, dude, what's going on? He's like, dude, chill. It's like, it's cool, you know, like, nobody's taking any money out of your account. Like, this is fine, this is fine, and this is fine. And I said, okay, well, just like next time you're going to do something like this, like at least notify me first, right? You know,
right.
Because it scared me.
Right.
Excuse me. And so, but what I didn't know was that most of my other family could like hear the phone conversation. I must have been on speaker or something. And they didn't like the tone of my voice is really what it boiled down to.
Well, that's just not even fair.
Right, I mean,
so a little perturbed about a situation over a miscommunication. And okay, so I hear what you're saying. That's a very common predicament.
Exactly.
So I guess just to finish that briefly, are you communicating with your older brother about, I mean, do you have an intention at some point of trying to sort of clear the air? And
I would like to. I mean, I apologized for my manners. You know, I was like, you know what, dude, it doesn't matter whether I thought I was disrespectful or not. The point is you thought that I was disrespectful. So I was like, I'm very sorry for that. If you want me to apologize to your stepson, I'll totally, sorry.
You're good.
I'll totally do that. And he was like, you won't talk to my kids, otherwise I'm going to call the cops on you. It's like, oh my gosh, dude, like, you got to be kidding me, man. Like, you showed up where I live yelling at me and pushing me off the deck, and you're threatening to call the cops on me? I was like, I should be calling them on you, dude.
Sounds like he might need some anger management classes. Okay, let's get back to the main story.
Yeah, so the main story is they were like, well, we go to this church, they offer this class, and so I was like, okay, all right. Like, I mean, I'm in the doghouse, pun intended.
Yep.
And so I was like, all right, well, whatever it takes, I guess. And so I went to one of the sessions and I showed up, and at this point it would have been 2012, so I would have been like 22, 23 at this point. Or 21, actually, sorry.
Okay.
And and so the rest of the dudes in there are like in their 40s, and most of them have been through a marriage or two. They're like addicted to cocaine, or they're addicted to meth, or they're addicted to whatever it is. They have like domestic assault charges, so on and so forth. And I'm sitting there like, well, the dog attacked me first, I fought back, and now I'm here, you know, and so I went to one of those sessions, and it wasn't even like really anger management. So I was like, well, I feel like you guys kind of like sold me on something that isn't even like sanctioned by the state. So I'm just not going to go.
Church thing. So okay. So you went to one class, and then
and then that was kind of it. Fast forward. So all of that happened in September and October. Go 1 month forward into November, and my girlfriend and I had an argument about something completely unrelated to the dog. Yeah. And she just decided to end it. And so that's kind of like where we ended it, which like was heartbreaking at the time, but like now like now that I'm older, I'm like, man, dude, thank God that he rescued me out of that.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be.
Right.
You learned some valuable lessons along the way, and then you had this crazy experience.
Right. So she ended it, and then in December 10th of 2012, I got a call from the Johnson County Police Department saying that my ex had come in and filed a complaint against me, right? And so they wanted to know my side of the story, and being gullible and not knowing that you shouldn't talk to the police without legal guidance, I told them exactly what happened. I was like, I mean, I have nothing to gain from lying, so I mean, might as well. And so I told them what had happened, and they said, okay, well, like, probably nothing will come out of this, but I mean, if something happens, like, we'll give you a call, right? And so I said, okay, cool. A couple days go by, and I had received a call at work, but I wasn't able to pick it up. And so I listened to the message. It was the Johnson County people again. Tried to call them back, but the office was closed. And I was like, well, this is kind of strange. You guys literally just called me 5 minutes ago. How can your office be closed? And so I left a message, and I didn't hear anything, like, for months. And fast forward into January of 2013, then I get a call from my ex, surprisingly, and I had deleted her number, so I didn't know, like, who it was. And so she goes, well, this and this and this happened. Like, I have HPV, human papillomavirus or whatever it is. And so I was like, oh, well, shit, like, that sucks. So she goes, yeah, but you were, like, kind of the last person I slept with. Knowing her, I was like, I know that's not true.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I just went and got tested anyways, just because, like, I mean, whether she had it before I, So anyways, I don't have HPV, thank God.
Solid.
Yeah. And turns out she doesn't either, because I found out, like, 7 months later that she was, like, totally
used that as a ploy.
Yeah, was just trying to get back at me. Yeah, she was still pissed off. So, and then a month later in February, though, of 2013, my roommate actually called me at my job, and he goes, hey, dude, I don't want you to freak out or anything, but there was an unmarked police car that was, like, outside of our house, the house that I had since moved out of, so I didn't live there anymore. Okay. He was like, it was just there. He followed me all the way to this McDonald's, pulled me over, and asked me if I knew where you were. And my roommate, being the homie that he was, told him that he didn't know where I was.
Yeah,
he didn't know how to contact me. So shout out, man. Shout out, yeah. To Adam Butler is his name. Adam Butler, praise you.
Good man.
So I was like, well, shit, dude, I better, like, call and, like, figure out what's going on. Because, like, in my mind, I'm thinking, like, did I blow a stoplight? Was I summoned for jury duty? Like,
what did I miss?
Yeah, what did I miss?
Yeah.
You know?
Same thing I was thinking today when the cops showed up at my house. Tell that story later. What did I miss? I mean, I know I've done some illegal stuff, but shit, did it catch up to me? Oh my God.
Yeah, dude. So I called Johnson County. They couldn't tell me if there was, like, a warrant or anything like that. So I was like, okay, all right, whatever.
And the counties are not connected, so they don't know what's going on with the other counties, which is dumb.
Right, exactly.
Dumb.
So then I called all the surrounding counties. I went as far as to call Kansas City police, dude.
Wow,
yeah, like I did my work. I was like, dude, like, if I got to pay something, I'm going to pay it, you know? And nobody could tell me if there was, like, a warrant or anything like that. And the Kansas City Police Department said, we can't give that information out over the phone. You're going to have to come into the station. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, all right. Like, I know that this is my first rodeo, but I wasn't born yesterday. I'm not going to walk in and be like, hey, I think that there's a warrant for my arrest. Why don't you guys just take me right here and now? You know? Like,
jeez.
So I then, like, since I couldn't figure it out, I was like, okay, well, I better, like, let my dad know. So I called back to Colorado, called my dad. I said, hey, Dad, this is what I know so far. I don't know, like, what it's for, but supposedly there's a warrant out for my arrest. We hired a legal attorney. He called around, got the exact same responses that I did. Like, nobody could tell him whether there was a warrant or not. fast forward, then like I was like pretty sketched the rest of the time that I was living in Kansas City. Every time I saw a cop, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get pulled over, you know. But didn't get pulled over, like nothing. Made it all the way into 2014 with no problems. Moved back to Colorado Springs in March of 2014 and had like kind of moved on with my life. She was in my rear view.
Yeah.
Started my job at Starbucks and Jimmy John's and stuff, and I was doing all right. And in October of 2014, I went to Bass Pro Shop off of Northgate in Colorado Springs to buy a deer hunting rifle for the next month in November when we have our family hunting trip.
Okay.
And so everything was going great until the background check had gotten denied. And they said, we don't know why it got denied. They're just saying they just flagged it. It got denied. And so I was like, okay, all right, well, that's fine, whatever. So I went home. And I guess my mom had gone back. Her and my dad had been talking. And my mom was just going to buy the gun, and then I was going to be able to use her gun then on the deer hunting trip.
Right.
And so she was getting ready to buy everything that I had already looked at and whatnot. And so she had asked me to come down and like help her figure it out. And right after I had gotten to Bass Pro for the second time, I get a call from one of my other younger brothers saying that 2 of the El Paso County sheriffs had shown up and they were looking for me. And so I thought that was kind of strange. So he like did his due diligence, got their names, got their badge numbers, got the number that I was supposed to call for dispatch. And so again, right away, I was like, oh, well, shit, like, I need to call these guys. So I called them, and they're like, hey, like, where are you at right now? I said, okay, this is where I am. And they said, well, you need to stay there until we can get some officers on the scene. So I said, okay, I'll stay here. And man, dude, they're quick. It was like 5 minutes later, man, there were some officers walking in, and so they said, hey, man, we're going to arrest you, but we're not going to do it here. And so I said,
I'm sorry, where was here?
The here is in Bass Pro Shop.
Oh,
so we're at like the hunting counter and everything in front of all the shiny new guns and everything. They said, hey, we're here to arrest you, but we're not going to embarrass you by doing it in the middle of all this stuff.
Okay.
So I said, okay, cool. And so just trying to be calm. They're kind of explaining what they know of the situation. You know, they're like,
much, but yeah.
Which isn't much again, right? Yeah. So they walk me out. I'm with my mom, my younger sister, and on the way out, one of the cops, he asked me, he goes, do you have any weapons or anything on you? And I said, nah, dude. And I said, oh, wait, actually, yeah, I do have this knife. And he goes, well, why do you have a knife? And I said, I don't know, I use it at work to like open boxes. And I was like, maybe for self-defense if I needed it. Like, I mean, like people carry knives. It's not that uncommon.
Got one right there.
Yeah. And so he responds with, oh no, you don't want to use a knife for self-defense. And I was like, okay, well, why not? And he said, because people like me, where I'm from, we take that knife, we stick it back in you. It's like, this is a cop telling me this, dude.
Wow, thanks for having those details, because, wow.
Yeah, so I asked him where he was from. He says, Brooklyn.
Oh.
And I just said, dude, we're in white suburbia, Colorado. Like, who's going to take the knife from me and stick it back in me, dude? Like, come on, man.
Oh, my God. They're going to take it from me and put it back in my pocket and say, thanks for letting me cut my cheese with that or whatever.
Yeah, you know? Right? Yeah, dude. So I couldn't believe it, but lesson learned, apparently. Like, if you don't know how to handle a knife, don't use it for self-defense. Buy pepper spray or something.
You, according to that one cop from
Brooklyn.
that
one cop. Yeah.
Wow, okay. Solid.
Yeah, so we get outside Bass Pro. He let me like take my wallet out and all this other stuff and like put it in a bag, give it to my mom. I had to take my nose ring and my gauges out, and so he goes, okay, man, and I'm not gonna cuff you quite yet, but once we get closer to the jail, like I have to bring you in cuffs. And so both of them were super cool. Like, honestly, if you're gonna get arrested, do it in Colorado Springs, because the cops here are very nice.
For sure.
Yeah. So we're riding all the way there, and he goes, what'd you do? And I said, I don't know. I thought you guys knew. And he goes, no, we don't know. It just says that there's a warrant that was issued on December 25th of 2012. I was like,
Wow.
Oh, shit, dude. I was like,
now you
I think
gotta
I
know
know
what's going
exactly
on.
what it is. Yeah. So get to the El Paso County Jail. Spent 8.5 hours in the drunk tank with the rest of the homeless dudes and like just other people, and I think by the time I was arrested, it was like 8 or 9 p.m. like in the evening. So then I'm in this drunk tank like overnight, and didn't get any sleep because I didn't trust any of the people that I was around. I mean, this is my first time being in jail. I don't know if they're gonna stab me or like have their way with me or like try me to get drugs that they stuffed up their assholes. I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Still just trying to be as like accommodating as I can. I'm like not trying to piss off the cops or anything like that, but I'm like trying to figure out what's going on, and nobody can tell me what's going on. So then I got into pre-class, which was kind of fun. They call it the fish tank, and what pre-class is, they just kind of like they put you in there before they classify your threat level. So whether you have like gang affiliations or if you have been arrested before or any like prior charges like DUIs, domestic assault, any of that. And so then they like rank you on a chart from 11 to I want to say it's like 33 or 40 something. But 11 is the lowest score that you can get, and that's what I got because I had no priors, like only like traffic violations, never been arrested, never just nothing. And so I stayed in pre-class for about 2 days, and then they moved me out to the C ward, which is right next to their, it's like their overflow for their mentally unstable ward.
Fun.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I mean, I learned a couple cool things. I learned how you can like mix toothpaste with the toilet paper and you can sculpt dice, or like I helped this dude make a chess set, which was actually pretty fun.
Nice.
Learned how to break off a comb and sew a sock up with like extra twine and stuff like that. So I mean, like I was like kind of getting into it a little bit, feeling like a badass myself. I'm like, oh man, I've been to jail. I'm like, I'm doing some time here.
Doing time.
Yeah, right. Like, I wonder when they're going to teach me how to make a shank.
I put this comb piece on top of this piece of toothpaste and you roll it right, stick it under your armpit. You heat it to just the right temperature. You will create a whole lot of nothing.
A whole lot of nothing. This podcast is not about shank making, I promise, or jail projects. But
definitely.
Yeah, so then I went to court. I had like just like a state appointed attorney, and basically the deal was he told me, he goes, okay, do you want to waive your right for like a governor's warrant? Which all that means is that the governor would have to issue a warrant for the police to go in and search my ex's house to see if they can like find any like DNA or physical evidence that I was actually there and did the thing that I did. And looking back now, I should have said, no, I don't want to waive my right. But at the time, I had already been in jail for, I mean, probably almost a week at that point, and I was scared.
Yeah.
And he told me that it could take up to 90 days to get like a governor's warrant. And so I'm thinking like, well, shit, dude, I just want to get out of here as fast as I can. The cops said that the charge came out of Kansas, and so that if they came to get me, then they had 14 business days to come and get me. After that, they had to let me go. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I waive my right to have a governor's warrant, so on and so forth. Let's like get this extradition paperwork started. And so then I was doing my time in jail, learning my crafts, and like learning how to play like spades and pinochle and stuff like that. And I think it was like day 12, and it was a Friday, and so I just had to make it, like the weekends don't count, so I just had to make it through the weekend and then Monday and Tuesday, and I would have been scot-free, and they would have had to have let me go. And then I could have gone about my business, and they came and they got me at 6 a.m. on Saturday morning. I was so pissed.
I bet.
So I get in this van, And it took us it's only roughly 7 to 8 hours from here to Kansas City.
Yeah.
But it took us 17 hours because we had to drive into Nebraska and pick some other dude up and then drive down, right?
Dang.
So it was a pretty long trip. They fed us, we had to be shackled the whole time. And when you're in a van for that long, you're starting to think, now how am I going to escape? What if the van crashed,
Right.
and I'm like the U.S. Marshals or something like that film, right, with Harrison Ford and what's his name?
I know who you're talking
Lee
about.
something. Dang it. Anyway, I can't remember.
Yeah,
So
totally, I feel ya.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about how I'm gonna escape, and then we pick this dude up in Nebraska, and he and I start getting to talking, and wouldn't you know it, that guy went to high school with my ex-girlfriend who called the cops on me, dude.
Wow, synchronicity like a motherfucker.
Yeah, dude. This can't be real life. This doesn't happen in real life.
Yeah.
What are the odds, dude?
Everything happens for a reason, man. All right.
Right,
Shoot.
right. Yeah, man. And so he goes, yeah, dude, I tried to date her too, and all this other stuff. And he goes, man, was she a bitch? And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, I wish that somebody would have told me this before I decided to date her because I could have saved myself all this time. So anyways, we end up, funny enough, getting the same cell together then. And so then I was in the Johnson County Adult Detention Center, which is actually on America's top 5 most secure jails. They don't even have a perimeter fence because you physically can't get outside of the building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how secure this place is, right?
Wow.
They've had one person escape from Johnson County in the last, now it'd have to be the last 40 years, but at the time, it was the last 30 some odd years.
Right.
And that was at their old facility, and he broke out using the piping and stuff, some kind of Shawshank Redemption stuff, dug a hole in the wall.
Damn.
Yeah, dude, I was like, that's wild.
Yeah.
So, but since then they've had nobody escape, and they've built another new facility on top of an old army base. You can actually still see the bunkers and stuff if you look out the windows. It's pretty dope. They got an airfield.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They got the setup there for sure. But so I was there for 4 days. My parents got in contact with a bail bondsman. His name's Chuck. Chuck's one of the coolest dudes ever. He actually told me that the next time somebody calls and says that there's a warrant for my arrest, I should call bail bondsman office because they have access to records that lawyers and other people don't.
Oh, wow. Good to know. Yeah, bondsmen are interesting people. Yeah, interesting job.
Oh, yeah, for sure he was.
Yeah, for sure he was.
Yeah. So they bonded me out. He said, hey, man, I'm going to let you go back to Colorado. I'm going to appeal to the court, tell them that I know that you're coming to Colorado. You can't drink, you can't smoke pot, you can't, own any weapons or, have any weapons, so on and so forth. And he says, and you need to check in with me twice a week. And he says, if you miss a check-in, then we got some problems. I love Colorado, I love skiing, but don't make me chase you. And I said, no problem. I will not make you chase me. I will stay in Colorado, and I will do everything you said. And I did. I checked in twice a week, and then he was like, you know what, man, twice a week is getting to be a little bit much. I got other people. Why don't we just do once a week? And so, again, Chuck's such a cool guy.
Yeah, nice. Go Chuck.
So then we're having mediations and stuff like that where my lawyer is having to appear for me. And this goes on for about 9 months until finally we get to this judge. His name is Judge Draghi, I think, and he was not the judge over my trial, but he was the judge over the mediation. And so he asked me to tell him my story, to let him know what happened. My lawyer came there, and so I told him what happened. He goes, okay, all right. He says, well, I don't think that these people are going to drop it. My ex's family is not going to drop the case. And so he goes, they're really looking for their pound of flesh. And so seeing with what you're charged with, which was cruelty to animals, and it could have been a felony charge. He said,
Wow.
what do you think is fair in this scenario? And I said, okay, well, if they want me to pay restitution, like losses for the dog, if they had to go to like counseling after that, you know, whatever they had to do, like, I mean, I'll pay them that money. If they want me to do anger management, like, I don't think that I'm an angry person, which, like, at the time I just couldn't see that I was an angry person. And so I said, but I do anger management. I said, even if they want me to do a psych evaluation, because that was one of the things I asked him. I said, so if this happened in September of 2012, why did they wait until December of 2012 to call the cops? Like a month after. No, 2012, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so the incident with the dog was September of that year. We broke up in November. They called the cops in December.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you.
And so to me, that was, I'm still pissed off at my ex. How can I hurt him?
Yeah.
You know? And so I was like, come on, Judge, like, you do the math on this. Like, really?
Yeah.
And he said that the response that they gave him when he asked them the same question was that they were worried that I was mentally unstable and that I would come and retaliate somehow, right? That I would hurt them. And so I said, that's just stupid. Ask anybody that knows me, like if I'm a violent person like that, and they'll tell you no. Like, I mean, that is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard about myself. And so I said, okay, well, I mean, yeah, if they want me to prove that I'm mentally stable, I'll do a freaking psych eval, you know?
Yeah.
And he said, okay, well, what if they say they want jail time? I said, I am willing to do up to 30 days of jail time. And so he goes, wow, well, I think that's more than fair, you know?
Yeah,
I agree.
Simple enough, short period of time. You already did some time, which would count towards that time.
Right, exactly. You just
have to do a couple weeks.
Right. And so then he like let me go into like another like side room while he brought the family back in, and then I actually like saw them. This is my only time seeing them. Actually, like since I broke it off with her, and then it was the last time that I've seen them like in person. Right? Was this time that I was in there, and so now we're in 2015. This is the year that we're in, and so I go back in there, and he goes, "All right, man, they didn't like your offer." And so I was like, okay, well, what's their counter offer? And he said, this is what they're willing to agree to. And I tried to talk him down, and he said that they will not budge from this. So my two choices on the table were to do half of a maximum sentence, which the maximum sentence is a year. And so half of that was 6 months with a felony conviction, paying restitution, anger management, and like a psych eval, like I had said. So apparently they liked those two things, but they didn't like the rest of it. And then he said, or I guess it was 4 months. It was 4 months with the felony, and then my other offer was 6 months, which was half the time with a misdemeanor, and then like restitution, anger management, and a psych eval.
Okay, wow.
And so the judge looked at me. He's like, I mean, you're young, you know. I mean, like if you want to, I'd just take the felony charge, do 4 months because it's less time, and then in 3 to 5 years you can apply to have that felony expunged from your record. And me sitting there, you know, I mean, I'm like 24 at this point. I'm like, no, dude, I'm too young to have a felony. Like, I like owning guns. I want to go hunting. Like, I like being able to vote, you know?
Right, lots of things. Like, you just get treated differently. I mean, apartments is a good example. You know
jobs.
I mean? Jobs is a great example. Like, but yeah, almost anything you could think of. Most people you wouldn't tell them, oh, I have a felony, you know?
Right.
But, like, that holds you back from stuff, which... It's lame, but wow, that's crazy.
Right, exactly. So he was like, well, I mean, you could get it, you can apply to get it expunged. And I said, the key word in that is apply. Apply. Because I can still be rejected. Yeah. You know, which then I'm stuck with a felony for the rest of my life, dude.
For like, something so, wow, yeah.
Right,
so you ultimately ended up taking the 6 months.
The 6 months.
2 months more than the 4 months,
right?
Which was still ridiculous, but I mean, that seems like a no-brainer to me. And he was telling you that you should take the 4 and the felony?
Right, yeah,
the,
dude.
The FF, the 4
I was like, all right, man, like, how much did you really try and talk him down, Judge?
Yeah, for real.
And so I told my lawyer, I was like, all right, man, like, I mean, I need some time to go back to Colorado, think this over with my family, like, talk it out and, like, figure it out, and I'll have an answer for you in a week or two.
Yep.
And so he said, yep, that's fine. And so then he goes, so do you want to waive your right to a preliminary hearing? I said, yes, I want to waive my right to a preliminary hearing. Let's just go straight to sentencing, you know. And funny enough, he told me that my conversation with the police officers in December of 2012 was what really did me in, is because I admitted to being there and I admitted to kicking the dog. And when the cop asked me why I kicked the dog, my answer was because I was mad. And he said, so that's the difference in between like a felony and a misdemeanor is malicious intent.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's crazy. I didn't even get that full part last time when we discussed it. That is amazing. So they took that on record and it was like, okay, he's an angry, malicious, obviously violent person.
Right.
Because, wow, that's crazy. And you were
dude.
Just acting
so
in
I
self-defense.
completely like painted myself as a bad guy, like right there in front of the cops. So, lesson to anybody listening to this podcast: get yourself a lawyer and keep your mouth shut until your lawyer shows up. Otherwise, you will screw yourself.
Guaranteed. Until the system gets changed to a point where it's actually fair and actually just. Yes, absolutely. I can say the exact same thing. I remember when I turned myself into jail, you know, my lawyer was very adamant about do not say anything to whoever wants to talk to you. And I remember going in there, and this is kind of funny because I walk in and obviously, like, I mean, it still just blows my mind that you actually did 6 months for this just because ultimately you kind of threw yourself under the bus. But yeah, I mean, I remember walking in and I wasn't going to tell them anything, and they're like, you know, they were asking me like medical questions, you know, they were saying, you know, are you fit to this and that, and do you have whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, like family history of any of these mental disorders or thyroid cancer or whatever.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly, the whole medical history pretty much, and I was just like, I can't tell you anything without talking to my lawyer. And they were like, we need to know, blah, 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 like, are you okay? And I'm like, I can't tell you anything without talking to my lawyer. And then finally they're like, we need to know if you're like okay physically and blah blah blah. And
so
I was
that
like,
you
I'm
don't
fine.
seize out on us,
right?
And we don't give
I was
you
like,
the wrong
I'm
med.
fine. I am fine. I don't know what the hell I said, but you know, I definitely said that multiple times. I was like, I won't tell you anything without talking to my lawyer that I just got.
Yeah, dude. Way to stick it to the man through silence.
Right, through silence. Yeah, that's a thing. Check these clouds out over here.
Yeah, right, dude.
That's really nice. That's really nice.
We get some of the best sunrises and sunsets here. One of my favorite things about being here is I get to watch the sunrise on the mountains every morning.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
That's
beautiful.
awesome. I wanted to bring some video into this, and I do even have like a backdrop and stuff like that, but I was like, you know, a little bit more work, but I definitely am going to move that direction in the future. And then also, you know, that would mean we'd probably want to have something other than this, and you know, maybe dressed the same but slightly more up.
Maybe a polo. Yeah, I mean, like, because yours is kind of a button up.
Yeah, I got
the
the
half. My Gotti t-shirt.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it says joy on it, which is cool.
It's true, with the
like
lightning bolt.
With a lightning bolt, too, which is super
Sparky.
dope. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to finish that story, because I kind of cut you off, and you're at the end here.
Oh no, you're good, man. Yeah.
Sure.
So that had to have been, I don't know, like April or May of 2015 when that happened, and the sentencing hearing was August 15th of 2015. So I walk in there, and the judge is just like rude right off the bat, man. Like, I mean, I felt bad for the dude going ahead of me because she looked straight at him and she was like, you came into my courtroom and you didn't even look like you were sorry, and you're trying to appeal for early parole. What makes you think that you deserve that? I don't see anything here that says that you deserve early, like getting out early.
Yeah.
And so I'm extending your sentence. I was like, no way, dude. This dude's trying to get out early, and she I didn't even know that was possible.
Wow.
I was like, that's some crap, dude. I tell you what. Yeah. Yeah, shit.
So immediately,
yeah, that's some shit.
At this point, you're like, fuck.
Yeah, dude. And it's at this point that my lawyer tells me that she's a chairman on a board for like an animal rescue. And that she has a history of making examples out of animal rights offenders. And so then I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like what's going on? He then tells me, so I asked him, I was like, can we like appeal to get a different judge? Like, is it too late to do that? And he goes, we can't do that because my animal offense was not directly against whatever like company she worked for.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it wasn't considered a conflict of interest.
Right.
Yeah. And he said maybe if this had happened in Missouri, then it'd be a different story. He goes, in fact, we probably wouldn't even have made it this far in Missouri. They just would have like given you a ticket and slapped you on the wrist, maybe given you like 15 days jail time, and then you'd be done with this, and then you could have moved on with your life. And he goes, also no, she does not have to accept this deal that I've signed with Judge Draghi. Oh. And so I was like, well, then what the hell was like the point of me signing this whole deal and like going to mediations if she can just say no, max me out with a felony, and then send me to jail for a year? Like, what was the point of all this work and all this money that like my dad, because I couldn't pay him. Like, lawyers are expensive, dude. Yeah. So my dad just like put away thousands of dollars into his lawyer, you know, and so at this point I'm kind of thinking that my lawyer is a little useless, you know.
Right, that can happen sometimes. I've heard similar things.
Right, yeah, and so anyways, then it gets up to my little bit, and the judge is reading over my case, and then she calls both the counselors, the prosecution and mine, calls them back into a private meeting, dude. And if I thought that she was in a bad mood before, she was in the worst mood after they got out of that meeting, man. Like, because she looked right at me and she pointed at me and she goes, you better get down on your hands and your knees and you better thank your lawyer for getting you such a sweet deal. And I was like, sweet deal? I'm doing half the time. Like, wow. You try going to jail.
Yeah, you know? For real.
Why don't you see how you like it, you know? And so anyways, what she ended up doing, she honored the deal, so I still did 6 months with the misdemeanor. What she kind of did me over on, though, was she put me on 12 months probation afterwards, which was not part of the deal. I was just supposed to serve my 6 months. No. Then either during or after the 6 months, I was supposed to do some type of anger management course and get a psych evaluation. Right. And so, so then she was like, you're doing 12 months of probation afterwards, which would have meant that I would have had to stay in Kansas. Right. And so I was like, oh my gosh, dude, like I don't even live in Kansas anymore. Like my life is back in Colorado. I have 2 jobs, you know, that I've like maintained. Like my family's back there. Yeah. Like I just have nothing drawing me to Kansas. And so I asked my lawyer, I was like, hey dude, can we get this to where I can like serve time like in Colorado, or like what's the deal? Yeah. And he said that I wouldn't be able to serve time in Colorado, that I had to do my time in Kansas, but he said that we could probably get it to where I could serve my probation in Colorado. And sure enough, she agreed to it. And it was really funny because the prosecutor then was like, okay, well, if he's going to do his probation out in Colorado, then he should have to adhere to the laws of Kansas. And so she was like, okay, that's cool. And he goes, but you do know that marijuana is legal in Colorado. And so she goes, oh yeah, no alcohol, no drugs, and no marijuana.
Oh my God. You're like, no,
I was
my
like,
stress level
gosh,
go through the
dang
roof.
it, you prosecuting son of a gun, you. like, come on, man. I almost got away with it, but no.
Damn.
Yeah, man. So I surrendered myself. They arrested me right then and there. I hugged my dad and kissed him goodbye, and that was the last time I saw him for the next 6 months.
Yep.
And did my time in Johnson County Adult Detention Center. I had another girlfriend at the time, so we were like writing letters back and forth.
Yep,
and
doing that right now.
And then my mom came to visit me a couple times, and a couple other people that I knew in Kansas came out to visit me. And so, I mean, it was rough. It was like pretty depressing. I mean, like, I did not know how much I would miss being outside.
Yeah.
Because since they didn't have a perimeter fence, we didn't get to go outside at all. We were inside like
that
the whole time.
That's not even humane, really. I mean, the sun.
Yeah, dude, it's like a real thing.
Yeah.
To everybody that says that like the sun doesn't affect like your happiness level, dude, or like getting vitamin D or anything like that, dude. I've never had more suicidal thoughts than when I was locked up. Ever.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So, so it was pretty rough, but I mean, I got through it. You know, I mean, God was really good to me in that time because I was praying. I was in my Bible. I had nothing better to do. I mean, like, if you want to know what 24 hours in a day feels like, people need to go to jail. You'll feel those 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because it feels like a week. You know, like, I mean, you know, your girlfriend knows, or fiance, I'm sorry.
Well, not quite, but basically.
But basically, yeah. And, yeah, dude, it was just kind of messed up, but I learned more about humanity at a whole. Most of the people in jail said that they would have rather have gone to jail for killing a person than an animal. On my morality spectrum, I think that's pretty messed up because I would for sure say that I would always take a human life over like an animal life. Like I would always choose the human life. Yeah, over an animal because I mean, like,
that's kind of just
humanity,
common
like,
sense. Like,
right.
I mean, I definitely am not vegan, and I definitely like to mostly eat fish more than meat. That's just because I like the way it like treats my body. I mean, pescatarian ultimately. It's actually how I have been eating for the past couple of weeks, which is
good
awesome.
for you, man.
But yeah, definitely 100%. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I had a bunch of funny nicknames. First, it started off as Dog Killer. They wouldn't even call me by my name. They just called me Dog Killer. And then after that, it got a little bit more subtle. They switched it to DK once they realized that I was kind of cool, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I will. And then it went to Jimmy Neutron because at the time I had like a pretty nice haircut, but I would like swoop it. And so they said that I looked like Jimmy Neutron, which was pretty funny. After that, then I like joined a Bible study in jail and was like kind of helping lead that. So they called me Pastor Caleb or Pope Caleb or Chosen One Caleb. I was like, all right, you guys, we're getting a little blasphemous with the names here.
That's
funny. So yeah, but it was just really cool that God met me where I was at because I was just really afraid, you know. Like I mean, I'm one like average-sized person, you know, in a cell with 7 other strangers who are in there for a reason, you know. Like most of the stories had to do with meth. I mean, like after a while, you know, when people would start telling me like what they were in for, I'd be like, oh, wait a minute, does this story begin or end with meth? Yeah? Okay, never mind. I don't want to hear it. They're all the same, you know? And some of the guards were kind of shitty. Some of the guards were like really cool. There was this guy named Elrod, and he was like a brand new deputy. And I felt bad for him because everybody gave him such a hard time, you know, and he just like didn't quite have that tough exterior, you know, but he was really cool to me and a couple of the other guys that showed him some respect and was like, you know what, man, like we just appreciate you like serving in the way that you're serving. Like, as much as it sucks for us to be in here, it's got to suck for you to have to like babysit us for 12 hours out of the day, dude, and then go home to do whatever else with your life. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like,
cannot be I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, honestly, I think I could make the best of that type of job, but I just think ultimately the energy in a place like that, for the most part, is gonna be not great.
Dude, it's got to be soul sucking. Like honestly, like if you want to have hope for humanity, don't work in a jail or a prison. Cause,
real.
It'll rob you of that real quick. So, anyways, that was pretty fun. They started calling me Cake Boss because I learned how to make cakes in jail, which was pretty cool. I had to like the commissary stuff. I got pretty creative, and I made this dude a birthday cake one time out of Pop-Tarts. And so it was like Pop-Tarts, and then I figured out how to make like a peanut butter what do they call that? Like icing, and then I had like fresh apple slices on top
nice.
with a little bit of jelly. So again, not to toot my own horn, but it was really great, man.
That's solid. I'm glad you made the best of it ultimately.
Learned how to make hooch, which was great for New Year's. That was awesome.
What's that?
We all got a little buzz. It's prison wine.
Oh yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah. So we like made it in a tortilla bag in our trash can. We fermented it for like 2 or 3 weeks.
And what is that exactly?
So what we did was we took like sticky buns, Jolly Ranchers, some orange peels, and like water. And what the sticky bun is for is it's got the yeast in there, and the yeast causes the fermentation process of the sugar from the Jolly Ranchers and the fruit. Yeah, exactly. And then if you just let it sit in there, and the fruit kind of like starts fermenting and causing the chemical reaction, which creates alcohol. So we just had it in there, and we had to be careful with it though, because you get oh my gosh, what's it called? They like come in and like search your cell, right? For paraphernalia and stuff like that. And so like extra mattresses, any books you're not supposed to have, like other things like shanks or whatever, you know, like so we had to time it right, because they would do a random one once a month, and so we were like, okay, as soon as we have this search happen, we're gonna start making our hooch, and so it was like us and a couple other guys in there, and I mean, New Year's was really fun that year. After like not drinking for 5 months, man, it was pretty decent.
Nice, you got a decent little buzz. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. So I got out then. They counted my time served, which was roughly like 16 days time served, and so I technically got out like a half month before I should have been. So I got out on February 2nd of 2016. My girlfriend and one of my younger brothers drove out to come get me. And the guys all told me, they were like, hey dude, like when you get out, like give yourself a couple days to acclimate to like real people food. Otherwise, like, cause if you don't, like you're so used to eating the garbage that they feed you in jail, dude, that you can give yourself like diarrhea and stuff like really bad.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I didn't listen, and my first thing was, let's go to Sonic. I was like, I just need grease in my life.
Like, come on, give me a burger, give me some steak and fries.
Yeah, dude. So I didn't have diarrhea or anything, but I had a little bit of heartburn, so that wasn't quite pleasant. But yeah, got out, went to the court office. They told me that I was officially starting probation as of that day, and I said, okay, now the deal was that I am able to go to Colorado. Now, are you guys going to honor that, or are you going to pull another fast one on me? Because like my brother and my girlfriend are here
to take me home.
Right, yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't have a job. I don't have anybody to like give me a place to stay or like nothing.
Got nothing.
Know? Yeah. So they said, yes, it shows on your paperwork that you're going to be able to serve your time there. You just got to check in with these people at this date and so on and so forth. For your probation, though, they said that I would have to do UAs and stuff. And so you got to call the number and then
color line, whatever.
Yeah, right, exactly. And they let you know if you got to go in and so on and so forth.
How many times a month did you have that?
I had to call every day. And
every day.
I think I only ever had to do 7 UAs, because actually, so I got out in total, because I got out in February, and by April, since I had passed all my UAs, my probation officer was like, you don't need to do any more UAs. And I was like, yes, dude, that's awesome.
Nice.
That's like $25, $35 every time you have to go in.
Right.
My anger management was once a week. That's $25 every session. And then my psych evaluation was $400.
Oh, I was going to say, that was a lot more.
Yeah. And I had to pay Colorado, I had to pay them like $758 to watch me, and Kansas, I had to pay them like $800 or $900. So I was paying 2 states to be on one probation.
Yeah, that's fun.
Which was some shit. So I probably should have just asked them if I could have done my probation in Kansas. Then I would have only had to pay them like one time. But And then after my psych evaluation, the guy said that I was like depressed or whatever, you know, and at the time I was on probation. I was in a relationship that I, you know, for the last 6 months of my life had been like long distance, right?
Yeah.
So now like my girlfriend and I are like relearning how to like relate to each other, like as we're like physically around each other.
Right.
I had gotten my job back at Starbucks. They're like pretty good about that, but I had just promoted to a shift supervisor position,
Right.
which added more stress. And so
Yeah.
I was just like stressed. I was anxious. I'm money tight. Like
Yeah.
and I couldn't live with my parents because they had dogs.
Oh.
So I couldn't even go back and live with my parents. So I had to live with
man.
my sister and my brother-in-law. Thankfully, they were like in Colorado Springs and they let me stay with them. But I mean, I just had like a lot of like negative stuff going on around me, you know? And so I was like,
to make you stressed and depressed.
right, exactly. And that's kind of what I told the dude. I was like, man, like I get that you had me do this test, but don't you think that all of this is like circumstantial? Like,
yeah, I mean,
I'm not.
Why you're feeling why you were feeling. So what did he say? I mean,
he told me no. He goes,
Oh.
"Oh, do you think that you know better than somebody who went to school for this?" And I was like, "No, dude, I'm not trying to say that, but I am trying to tell you that I know me better than you do."
right,
Like,
right, guaranteed. Oh man,
You know, yeah, man. I've had 6 months of soul searching to do. I think I got it.
yeah, I figured some stuff out. I know myself better than you know me and your machines and your doctorate degree or whatever.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and so on top of all this money that I already have to pay to the states, then I have to do counseling, which is $125 per session. Was like the cheapest one I could find in the Springs.
Dang.
And so I'm just saying, like, thank God for my family and them being like a support system, like my dad helping me out, like, you know, even just like everything. Because if I didn't have that, dude, I'd wind right back up in jail because I wouldn't be able to pay anything. And for the people that don't have that kind of support system like I do, it's no wonder they're repeat offenders. It's no wonder that they feel like they have to steal again to like survive.
And then
you know?
and like I mean, you're stressed and you're depressed, and I'm talking about anybody at this point. And then, like you said, you can't pay for the, you know, whether it's just the UA or the $400 psych eval or whatever.
Yeah.
Even the lawyer in the first place, like.
And if you have kids, like I don't have kids. I don't have any dependents. Like my cars were paid off. Like if you have to make a car payment, insurance payment, take care of your baby mama, take care of your babies.
That is just, if you throw in and you factor in all that stuff, it makes just so much basic, simple sense why, you know, somebody would literally just be stuck in the system until they're basically dying in prison because they just couldn't stop doing what they were doing and they couldn't fix whatever they, you know, they didn't even have a chance to, you know, see a counselor that could actually talk them through. And even if they did, they were barely able to scrape the money together. So at the point where they're actually there sitting face to face with the counselor, they're not actually getting anything out of it, you know, because you have to want it, you know. I mean, if you want to be sober, you have to want it. If you want to get through probation and whatever, you have to want it, and you have to have the money. I mean, wow, man.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, it's just like I consider myself to be a lucky one, honestly, because
me too.
The system is kind of like built for the opposite. Like they say that they want people to better themselves and to help contribute to humanity, but the way that the system is structured, it is anything but, dude. They are fully against you right from the get-go. As soon as they put those cuffs on, they are against you.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot. That's crazy. I definitely am grateful for sure. I'm super grateful to my dad, to my family in general, just as you are. I would not have been able to. I guaranteed wouldn't be here sitting with you today if it weren't for my family being a huge support system. I could easily be either in jail or prison or in a psych ward or dead or, you know, just still doing meth or just doing whatever I could do to get by, you know. Maybe I'd be robbing banks left and right and getting away with it. Who knows? But, man, that's wild. I mean, so I picked up somebody from the jail a couple days ago, and he had just bonded himself out for $10,000 cash. Like I don't think he could even do the bail bond thing, and I don't whatever. But he is roughly my age. I didn't ask his age. I'll have to ask him. I got his contact, but this guy has a crazy story that I only heard probably 15% of it, but he's got stage 3 cancer.
Yeah.
And he's been given 3 years to live.
Jeez.
Like 6 months ago, 3 years to live or something like that.
Right, yes. Now he's down to 2.5.
Yeah,
like,
and he's got like a tumor in his lungs or something like that. And, they obviously have the opportunity to do some kind of surgery and potentially get it to go away and this, that, and the other thing, chemo and that crappy stuff. Mm-hmm. But I want to say he had gotten his 3rd DUI, and the reason why he got it, I'll hopefully have him on the podcast later, but basically, not to give too much of it away, but it sounded like he was just going through a stressful, depressing time.
Sure.
With whatever, and because of that, he had already been inclined to drink, just like a lot of people do, to forget or whatever.
To block out the pain.
Yep. Precisely. Mm-hmm. And because of that, he was driving and got his 3rd DUI and ended up having to go to jail, and he bonded himself out because he's like, I'm dying in jail. Like, I might as well at least like get out and see what I can do. And he's like, I was going to school for this, and now it's not even worth doing, and I don't even know what to do at this point. Yeah. Like, man, like that. I mean, and it's just amazing to me because sitting down here with you, sitting in the car with him for 30 minutes and being able to talk while driving, I don't even want to say most people, but more and more people, hopefully definitely most people one day will feel the way I feel, because I'm sure you do too, but we feel energy. We're energy beings. We've talked about it. We're going to talk about it more, but this guy was clearly a loving, kind, compassionate person, and yet he obviously just got into some stuff, however it happened, and he's got cancer on top of that. Like, I'm like, dang, they should have some kind of special program, or at least just not be even allowed to put you in jail if you were like
take people to an island where you like don't have boats or anything, like the only way of escaping is like swimming out, but at least maybe it's like pleasant. I don't know.
There you go. And you can be with people who are kind of in the same boat. You all have a great time. Like, hey man, how much time you got to live? Well, I mean, they gave me like 3 weeks. All right, cool. Let's party down, man.
Yeah, right. We might have Australia part 2. I mean, Australia was a prison, like, originally, and now it's like one of the wealthiest continents like in the world. Like, they do really well for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I knew that, or maybe if I did, it was
dude, it was a British prison. Okay, it was like basically like if they were like kind of like ashamed of you or something like that, or you'd done something really bad, they ship you down under, and so it was a colony, like a prison colony for a long time, and now they're their own state.
Didn't know that.
Yeah,
really
man.
Interesting.
Pretty wild. They also have the only Navy in the world that will pay for prosthetic, like breast surgery and stuff, or not prosthetic, but like breast surgery. Yeah, implants. Yeah, for the Navy. I was like, man, that's kind of a weird thing to be known for in your Navy.
It's a strange thing. That's funny. I was moving Jayana's dad yesterday, and her mom and her brother were there, and her dad, for some reason, has the nurse uniform that from literally, like, I don't even know. It was like from way back. He's 60-something, I think. So it's like a really super old nurse uniform, and it literally is just the skimpiest little, tiny little thing with a zipper up the side, and like just super sexy looking thing. I'm like, wow, they literally, like, the way that things have been run in this country, probably just the world, but let's focus on the country. I don't know. I don't know lots, but what I do know is fascinating. I mean, just speaking on like the probation and jail and court systems and whatnot, it's a business that doesn't aim to treat people well, and they get to just make like really easy money off. Like I think each inmate in Jeffco is like $200 a day. Each inmate is $200 a day or something like that.
Yeah, to keep them in there.
Yeah. Like, what? That makes sense. And yet you get fed the worst possible food. You may as well give them dog food.
Right, yeah, dude. The bologna in there was purple. The bologna is not supposed to be purple. It's supposed to be that, like, kind of pink, color.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
Man, that's wild. Well, this was a good talk, Caleb.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
I appreciate
welcome,
you telling me
Jonathan.
my story.
My story through your eyes. Amen, brother.
Hey, we are all one. We are all one.
We are all one.
Thank you for telling me your story. I do appreciate that a bunch. This is awesome. I'm excited for the next one. I am excited to see what happens with us in the future. Lots of business prospects. You're going to work on some cool stuff, and we'll talk about that at some point. But this sounds like just an awesome, optimal time to wrap this up. We went a little over an hour. That's not too bad.
It's not bad at all.
Alrighty. We'll see you guys all up on the flip side. Have an awesome day. Peace out.